here first to support the family, of course to share love, and to let the family know we did all we could as a family, as a community, as the state of California, to not see another Oscar Grant as Trayvon Martin was murdered himself. The similarities I can go over. I mean, Oscar Grant and his friends were wearing hoodies. Oscar Grant was stopped because of the suspicion of them being in so-called Hispanic gang fight. Oscar Grant was talking on the phone to his girlfriend like Trayvon was talking to his girlfriend before he was brutally attacked and murdered. Of course, Chief G of the Barton Police Department resigned as Chief G, or Chief Lee here steps to the side. District Attorney Head Tom Arloff of the District Attorney of Alameda County resigned as the DA or state DA here steps down. I mean, so many similarities, but I think more importantly, another young man, again, out of the suspicion that he had been doing something wrong, is dead. And so we're here to let the family know that the whole state of California, specifically Oakland, the community of Oakland, are standing with the family, will support the family, of course pray with the family, will cry with the family, and our spirit will be with the family through the court process, because the real battle will be if he's arrested, getting through this racist criminal justice system.
Yeah, you know, we touched on that a little bit, but if he does get tripped, it's a whole other battle.
I mean, if I can share a snippet of what happened in our case, even when the jury came back with a guilty on the involuntary manslaughter and a guilty on the gun enhancement charge, where we knew that this police officer would do some prison time, the judge himself, Judge Robert Perry, then stated he made a mistake as a judicial figure and thereby felt that he instructed the jury wrong and took the gun enhancement off the table, granting him the right to give Johannes Memsley time served 2-year sentence where he only did 10.5 months.
Does it follow kind of what you see on that case?
I mean, we know the battle begins when it gets into the criminal justice system. And it's extremely likely that this case will first be a change of venue, will be moved, because the defense is going to make the argument that he cannot get a fair trial here because of the community involvement, because of politicians' involvement, because of different activists' involvement, because of even political figures' involvement in stating what they saw as, or heard, not saw, but heard as a murder. So we're sure that there's going to be a request for a change of venue. Even when it's changed out of the reach of the community, right, even making it difficult for the family to get there, the battle will begin in that courtroom, where the family then will have to endure this slow turning process of justice in the hope to get justice if the judicial figure doesn't find a reason to throw the whole case away.
It seems like it's
One more bit.
Yeah.
Sun's starting.
Sun's starting to get on.
Come up a little more.
A little bit more?
A little bit more. Right there.
All right, perfect. I mean, it seems like it's almost like a losing battle either way. It just seems like you want him to be charged, but in the end, it's not going to get the outcome that a lot of people are hoping to see.
Well, I mean, of course, there's our hope that what happened with Oscar Grant and many other young men in this country when it comes to police murders, as well as vigilante murders now, that we do get the justice that we so rightly need and want, because the community is tired, and at some point there's going to be an eruption. And in order to avoid that, there has to be true justice administered even through this racist criminal justice system. So we're really going to be praying and hoping and watching very closely to see that this system works in the way that it should. George Zimmerman should be arrested, he should be charged for murder, and he should get not an involuntary manslaughter, but he should get a murder charge put on him. Murder, not involuntary. We're talking about manslaughter, and we're talking about second degree homicide, murder.
What, you know, obviously this was important enough for you to come out here from California. I mean, we're seeing people who have heard about this case all over the country, and they're making the trip to Sanford. I mean, why do you think this case has struck a chord with people so deeply?
I mean, this is a young man, 17 years old, innocent, a virgin to the laws of this land, hasn't done anything wrong. A bag of Skittles and iced tea to be held in suspicion that he is doing something wrong and then be murdered because of that suspicion, and the failure of us as a community, as a U.S., to speak on the issues of racism. I mean, why would he use racial epithets? Just like before Oscar was murdered, Tony Peroni used racial epithets before Oscar was murdered. Trayvon Martin, before he was murdered, we can hear this racism language being used, especially when he decided to say ethnic coon at the end.
It seems like there's a lot of similarities between the two cases, but hopefully you might get a different outcome in this one.
We hope. Well, of course, it's our hope. We're here. We hope that there were some lessons learned from the Oscar Grant case. I mean, it was visual for the world to see. Anyone can go to YouTube, Google it, and witness a murder take place on the bar platform with a young man with his hands behind his back, semi-cuffed. An officer stands up and states that he thought Oscar was reaching for a gun, and then, of course, like here, the story changed to where he made a mistake and pulled his gun instead of his taser. That argument didn't take place until the police union made a discretionary call to represent him by getting him the best attorney that they could to protect these rankings in the way that they do their job here in the United States. That's completely wrong.
Anything else you want to add? I mean, obviously, every day there's been an event. Today we have the police visual day. Every day they're trying to do something to keep it going. Are you afraid that at one point this might drop over?
Well, we're here to make sure that the community knows that, as the judicial figure told us when our case was moved to Los Angeles, that he is not intimidated by the crowd, and that if he have to, he'll make the case last 5 years until the crowd go away. You know, the judicial figures here is going to have the same attitude. So it's extremely important that the community realize that this is not to the swift, it's to us who endured. And that is that the protests, that the rallies, that the speak out, that the involvement of the black student unions, the colleges, the high schools continue to speak to the issue of the murder that they heard and basically have seen through hearing what happened to Trayvon. And so there is and must be a continuous movement by the community to stay engaged and involved, to hold all those accountable. Chief Lee needs to be fired. Chief Lee needs to be fired. And the city manager has the responsibility to fire this chief, because this chief has failed in his responsibilities in other cases prior to this. We got a culture and we got a police chief who has allowed this atmosphere to get to this point. We're at a boiling point. At some point, it has to be addressed and people have to be accountable for their wrongs.
It's definitely gotten to a heightened level that everybody's watching to see what happens next.
All the way across the country. I mean, Oakland is in an outrage because we're witnessing this again, as we did over and over in Oakland. But now we're talking about a young man. There's been other young men murdered, but a young man like Emmett Till to be murdered. I mean, we can't forget that even though when Emmett Till was murdered, those that were held accountable for his murder got off. We cannot forget that. Everyone knows that they murdered Emmett Till, and yet they were not held accountable. When will this change? That it's time for people to be held accountable for the wrongs they commit, and that everybody be entitled to equal justice under the laws of this land.
Say and spell your name.
Cephus, C-E-P-H-U-S, Uncle Bobby Johnson, J-O-H-N-S-O-N.
From Oakland?
From Oakland.
In the